All right, so looks like this is what we're working with. So let's go ahead and get back into it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see um, any of the questions or, okay, I got the chat there. Live chat. Potential spam may not be visible. Live chat. Okay, I got the chat up. Let me know if wow, this light is really bright. Let me know if you can see and hear and everything is working on your end. So funny that we're talking about Mercury today. Okay, we got a good one. We're talking about Mercury today. And yeah, this is Mercury. So I hope you guys got the grounding and connection section of this. I'm not going to go through that again because I don't know if you know this or not, but that's really just for me to get grounded, because setting up live streaming is always disorienting. There's like so many logical functions that have to happen to get the live stream up and to put the code onto our course curriculum at the Mystic Source School. And my brain is all on. And then to come switch over and to do channeling and just grab information that comes through, it's like really takes a moment to get grounded and centered. So I'm not sure what all of the grounding section that you heard, but just the basic run through is we're going to inhale our awareness out from the periphery, from the middle world, from the things we have going on. Thank you so much for taking this time out of your busy schedule to join me for this live channel on Mercury retrograde. We're going to look at finding your true voice. What does that really mean? What is your true voice? What does that all composed of? And we're going to look at the meaning of Mercury, a little bit about the synodic cycle, looking at, just getting a broader idea of Mercury other than just the internet Google search about Mercury. So getting a little deeper into that. I'm going to talk about where to find your voice, looking at your astrology chart, and then how Mercury retrograde cycle really helps us to find our voice, our true voice. Okay, so it looks like we got people jumping in and jumping off the video. It's kind of, let me see if I can X that off so I keep seeing like somebody pop in, somebody pop out. So I'm just going to avoid looking at that. And so, okay, let's start off with, I have the astrology chart for the upcoming eclipse, which is happening on the 10th of June. Sun and moon are going to be at 19 degrees Gemini, and Mercury is going to be at 20 degrees Gemini. So not only are we in the eclipse cauldron, which started with the 26th full moon, the eclipse where the moon was with the south node. Now we were in a shadow phase of Mercury, and then we got into the Mercury retrograde, which we are still we're right in it. From there, I want to look at the angles that Mercury, there's like two overemphasized planetary forces that are coming into this Mercury retrograde cycle. That's Venus and that's Neptune. So I want to look at that, see how the planetary forces of Venus and Neptune are influencing our mind currently. And then looking at this next eclipse, which is right in the middle of the Mercury retrograde cycle. That eclipse having Mercury with it. So it's really bringing in this highly mental vibe to this little segment of time that we're in the eclipse cauldron, where it's like the sun and moon and earth just stirring up everything. Let's go to Mercury. So Mercury is known as a psychopomp, a shapeshifter, a trickster, the hermaphrodite. That's Hermes, Thoth, Trismegistus. That's all Mercury, Hermes, and Aphrodite. Aphrodite, also known as Venus. Mercury and Venus have a relationship. All the planets have a relationship, but Mercury and Venus especially have a special relationship because, okay, first of all, hermaphrodite, Hermes and Aphrodite together. Mercury in the Babylonian story, Sumerian story of Inanna is helping. Mercury actually is the figure that helps Inanna in the emergence from the underworld. So we see Mercury coming into the underworld. This is where we get that psychopomp. It's like helping souls cross over from the underworld back up to the upper world, also helping. It's like the guide that takes souls from the upper world into the under, and then vice versa. Mercury also is able to connect, communication with the gods. So underworld, upper world, middle world. Mercury has this like very magical, shape-shifting trickster vibe. You also have a Mercury. There's a part of you that is mercurial. It's easy to talk about that by looking at your own natal chart, finding out where Mercury is on your chart by house. So what house is Mercury in for you? I have Mercury in the 12th house. So that, that already says a lot. This is where communication is like popping. It's popping off in this specific area of your chart. The 12th house being dreams, channeling. I feel that having Mercury in that 12th house makes this easier for me to bring information from above, from below, and, move between the three worlds. So you look at the house, and then you're going to look at the aspects. So it's at a 90-degree angle with Venus, or my Mercury is at a 120-degree angle with Saturn. So you look at that. And then the sign. The sign is the easiest. I feel like looking at sign and house is the easiest basic things. At the Mystic Source School, we kind of keep it within sign and house. We haven't really gotten too much into aspects. Looking at sign, the sign is the flavor of your Mercury. Mercury can never get too far away from the sun. I think of Mercury as the sun's minion, actually. It's like wherever your sun is, this is where you shine the brightest. This is the overall style and flair of your outermost expression. So Mercury does the work of the sun. Mercury moves your voice. Mercury moves your expression. It's like, you're here shining as the sun, whatever flavor of sun that you were born into. And then Mercury will take and communicate your spirit. If you think of the sun as the spirit, Mercury goes off and communicates that, learns new things to help the spirit, and then also will communicate and tell people about it. It's like the way that you interact mentally with the world. And then the senses, that's Venus. Venus is communicating mostly with the senses. So that's where hermaphrodite, Hermes Aphrodite, become joined together, because as you know, a huge part of communication is through the senses. You hear, you touch, you taste, you feel. You're bringing information in through the senses, and then the voice will go off and translate, transfigure, transmit, transform, all of those hermaphrodite, the hermaphrodite, that we all have this. So Mercury is also known as an androgen. It's not we don't never say he or she when we talk about Mercury, because a lot of astrologers really do like to genderize planets because of it helps it make more sense to, to the mythology, to the stories that we've been telling in our current mind. Just to put it into perspective, in some cultures, the moon is a masculine. Actually, Thoth is also a lunar symbol, or a lunar resonant co-respondent. Thoth Trismegistus, Mercury, is a lunar in some, it's a lunar, we would say feminine archetype in some cultures. And the same thing with the sun. The sun is, so we have it in our way that the sun is masculine and the moon is feminine, but it's not always been like that. It does make more sense to me too because of, yang, yin and yang. But when we think about that, it's interesting how many of the planets automatically get put as he, and we really only have 2 she in our current astrological working of gender in planets. Anyway, that's a side thing. I'm still trying to sort myself around that, but Mercury is both. It's both, neither, nor, and. It's the and. So it's bringing things together through communication. All right, so we've talked about where your unique voice can be found astrologically on the chart. The sun is your overall style and flair. Mercury is not the minion. There's probably a better word. Mercury is moving. Mercury works for the sun in a way. And then the sign your Mercury is in tells your overall style and flair. So I'm going to put, just because I use my house, I'm going to say also that my Mercury is in Aries. So there's a fast, direct, just say it, get it out of the way. Like, it's like, okay, let's just get this going. Like, I would rather just start talking and then we'll figure it out later. It's fast, direct, it's gnosis. When you just know something and it just flows right out like the spark. Aries is the spark. So if you have your Mercury in Taurus, it's going to be slow, melodious, sweet. It's going to, your sound is going to be, a lot of singers, people who sing have their Mercury in Taurus. There's a melodious tone to your voice. Gemini is just going to be quick thinking all over the place. Hey, I like avocados. Oh, I heard avocados grow in California. And have you been to California? Mercury in Gemini is going to be quick thinking, talking, and just so much information. And because Mercury is the mind, when Mercury is in Gemini, it is so much information that it can become a big bowl of gibberish that you have to like, and that's just one, that's you might say the shadow, but Mercury in Gemini can hold massive amounts of information, taking it in and putting it out. So that's why Mercury in Gemini is a really good time to write, a good time for speaking, whatever you can do to move it out of your body, out of your brain, and put it into a format so you can like have that big exhale and let your mind free up space to think new thoughts, to have new information coming in. It looks like we're going around it looks like we're taking Mercury around through the signs. So let's go ahead and keep doing that. Next, we have Mercury in Cancer. We start the solstice. Mercury in Cancer is going to have a style or flair, which is very sweet, watery. They might be somebody who gleeks a lot, like water coming out when they talk. Watery mouth. Watery speech is going to be very nurturing and sweet. What else? It can be diluted. Mercury in Cancer is going to be also speaking in ways that is procreative, pro-generation, like, what's the word? Making babies, giving voice to what's important for the babies, the young, whatever's young and growing. So it's nurturing. You can basically say that. We move Mercury onto Leo, where Leo wants to be on the center stage. Mercury in Leo is going to automatically want to be like, hey, look at me and listen to me. And the thing that I love about Leo is that when we put Mercury there, it is speaking from this really loving, like self-loving place. like knowing its own value and worth. And then when it speaks, it also is sharing that, like, you can see and hear when somebody loves themselves so much, it automatically wants, it talks to that part of you which is also self-loving. And it's interesting because when we're looking at a Leo figure, like mercurially, like listening to them speak and seeing the whole production of their form of communication, we can either have, there's like these two main reactions, which one can be like, why do you think you're so good? Like, why do you, wow, you're so, what's this word? Why are you so conceited? That's the word. And then the other part is like, wow, look at how much this confidence this person seems to exude. And it makes you want to also step into that confidence yourself. And being around that Mercury and Leo person anyway can help you to really build your own confidence once you get over, if it even ever happened, the response where you're like, wow, you really think you're great or something like that. And because, yeah, you are great. There's, you know, I love that Leo archetype. Anyway, let's move on. So Mercury and Leo, from Leo, we get into Mercury and Virgo, where it's meticulous, it's very thoughtful. It doesn't just say things to hear its own voice. It actually has an organized thought pattern. So let's also take it to the thoughts, because these are also the thoughts that you hear in your head repeatedly. Because before it came out as a word, it was a thought. When I bring my awareness to Mercury in Virgo, I automatically go to my filing system. And whatever your filing system has in it is where, you know, thoughts are going to bubble up, and then that's going to turn into speech. Mercury in Virgo is going to have a very methodological, yeah, there we go. Methodical way of receiving information and then giving it out. And also the funny thing, it's not funny, haha, but what I find with Mercury in Virgo is that there's oftentimes, they have a huge filing cabinet of information, very valuable. The person I'm thinking of knows everything about herbs, knows where to get the herbs, knows everything, but he's older than me. And he's like, it's just not enough. It's not good enough yet to share. So he's just like at his house knowing everything you could possibly know about herbs and plants and medicine. And still, it's not enough. So there's that thing with the Virgo archetype where it, like, if it's not a full encyclopedia that's perfectly organized, they can sometimes not share it because of the fact that it's not, that they don't feel that it's complete. Mercury moving to Libra. Everything in the communication realm is going to be about what's fair, just, what's right for everybody, because Libra is this conscious co-creative, wanting to have, like, everybody's voice being heard and valued. We move Mercury into Scorpio, where it is very deep and thoughtful, and sometimes can be in a conversation where you're just going to say, you need to express a feeling or an emotion, Mercury in Scorpio, and it's just goes so deep to the deepest parts. And then whatever words actually come out, it's like, do they match what that deep feeling is? Because sometimes Mercury in Scorpio can hide a lot of the truth. It can hide because it's so much, there's so much feeling involved. So I don't know if Scorpio and Mercury means to hide the truth, or there's two things, because sometimes it can really just, as a little kid, will just say everything. Like personal business that was overheard, mama was saying such and such. The Scorpio Mercury child can be in a setting and then say like, oh yeah, well my mom, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh my God. And I think part of that is why as an adult, people with Mercury, Scorpio Mercury can hold back a lot of what they were going to say because they probably got in trouble for saying everything. So Mercury in Scorpio has a depth to it. Let's just leave it at that. I'm going to get through the rest of these, and then I want to tell you what Mercury right now, how it's aspecting. No, that's too deep. The Mercury, I'll get into the Mercury retrograde in Gemini, and we'll look at how it's aspecting you by sun sign. But I'm more interested in how it's aspecting your inner Mercury, because what we want to do here is find our true voice. I have so much information I want to give you. Let me go ahead and get through this next little section. So Mercury in Sag. Well, we're going to be focusing on Mercury and Sag in this next 30 minutes because Sagittarius is the opposite sign of Gemini, and Mercury is in Gemini right now. So this Sagittarius opposition is actually where we're going to find most of the medicine to help get us through this cycle. So Sagittarius is the adventurous, charismatic, something that's been sticking out to me lately because of all, doing ancestor work that I've been investigating for my own self. I was like, oh, I love to think about the archetypes of different people. So the conquistadors that was definitely a Sagittarian thing, because Sagittarius is the one who goes out and it's like a missionary. They have a mission, they have a quest, and it is a fire sign, and it won't stop. It will do what it's questing for. It does its mission for sure. And it's all about the philosophy and it's a very intellectually oriented quest that Sagittarius is on. There's a lot of activity. I see horses, I see running. It's athletic, and it's because it's traveling. It's an adventurer on a long journey. Whereas Gemini is short journeys, Sagittarius is long journeys. So Mercury in Sagittarius has a mission. It is like the missionary. It has a purpose. It's purpose driven, it's driving, it's flying, it's taking long trips that will expand consciousness. It's very connected with higher learning, education, the things that create our philosophies. So Mercury in Sagittarius is going to have a communication style that is going to make you want to learn, evolve, expand. It's like college. It's like going to college, thinking at a college level, speaking at a college level. Mercury in Capricorn is going to be geared toward the traditions, and speaking is going to, need like Mercury in Capricorn. The words that are coming out is like it won't speak until it knows perfectly what it wants to say. And it's speaking with a desire to get things built. And there's a discipline around speech with Mercury in Capricorn. Mercury in Aquarius is going to be speech for thinking for the future and speaking for the future. So there's this innovative, very weird, unusual, when you hear somebody with Mercury in Aquarius is going to be very abstract, and they're going to take you far out with that communication. Mercury in Pisces is very compassionate, loving. It's like talking to the Buddha or talking to Mother Teresa. This can be really annoying for me personally, just because of my attitude, when everything is made to be okay. Like if you're complaining about something, you're like, oh, or like, blah. And then the person with Mercury and Pisces will always bring it back to this like, oh, it's very healing, and it's good. It's good. It's like it brings that integration of all things together. Like everything is all right. Everything is working to its best possible ability, and it's all work. It's like that. Mercury in Pisces has that overall like, let's let love win. And then, okay, so we started with Mercury in Aries. So we're done with that. I want to take us now to Mercury in Gemini. I really don't. I really want to tell you this other thing first. So because we're going to bring in some breath work with this video, I took a course with Charlie Morley, who is a lucid dream teacher. He has a couple of really good books. I highly recommend Charlie Morley for a lot of things, for Buddhist teachings, but mostly for his work in lucid dreaming and shadow work. So this class that I took was for trauma-affected sleep, especially for people who were in the military and who have PTSD. So the thing that I learned a lot in that course, but the thing that sticks out the most in relation with Gemini is this connection between our lungs and our nervous system. So Gemini is this portion of the body. I was going here, but the breasts, I'm not talking about the breast. The breasts are related to Cancer. For Gemini, it is the lungs, the rib cage, and this whole section of the body. I don't know if you can see me, but like through here and the arms. So I think about like when a plant is growing, it has, like, it first comes up as one and then it splits off into two. And that's Gemini phase of the plant cycle. So for us, where we split into two is the Gemini parts of our body. And it typically, when you look in medical astrology books, Gemini is going to be through here. And it's our arms and our hands, wrists, hands, arms. The rib cage and the lungs, yes, that too. So, okay, and then Mercury is associated with the mind, and not just the brain. There's other parts of the brain that associate with like Uranus. And a lot of times when I look at the body and I'm thinking about the planetary correspondences, the mind, the thinking process, the pituitary gland, the endocrine system, they all kind of like merge together with Mercury, Uranus, Moon, because that endocrine system connection with how our menstrual, not just menstrual, but our fertility cycle and the way, they have a correspondence with each other. So don't take it so literal. Like, you can't really piece it apart. There's some moon aspects in our Svadhisthana, second chakra, pelvic bowl that relates with water, as well as Venus living in that pelvic bowl, Svadhisthana chakra, relating with sensuality. So it's me and Mystic are coming up with a free 7-day chakra course that we're going through the chakra system and relating it with the body. And also I have some really groundbreaking stuff that's going to freak a lot of people out about the actual chakra system and the chakra system that we have in the West. So they are two different things. This is a perfect time to bring that out during Gemini season, while we are where we split into two, and there was an origin before we split into two. So we're going to get into that with the mind and Mercury relating to the mind. We also see this. It's like some of Uranus, some of Mercury, and the connection with our pineal gland, that it doesn't fit into one. They work together. They all work together. Just like our whole body works together, which is where we're going to get into what is your true voice. Because your true voice isn't just from your vocal cords, which is actually a Taurus part of your body. It's not just your vocal cords. It's not just your thought process. It's not just your moon memories and dreams. It's all of it. And we have become so one-pointed on the linear functions of the mind that overall, as a culture, we have completely disavowed or like invalidated all these other forms of communication and all these other ways of knowing. So what we're going to do today is find our true voice, and I'm going to give you some tools to work with for the rest of this retrograde cycle. So back to this Charlie Morley information. I have a lot of notes, but I'm just going to read one thing to you. Okay? Coherent breathing. 5 to 6 breaths per minute is the perfect balance in the nervous system between rest and activity. So when you balance, it's called coherent breathing. You can actually get an app on your phone to like make these sounds for you so that you're inhaling to a certain number and then exhaling to a certain number. And a lot of this does actually go along with yoga breathing practices. So so for the optimized nervous system, Charlie Morley was saying that we're going to inhale and exhale to the same number. Now, for some of the exercises that we're going to do in this the chakra series that we're creating for you guys is different. And that is because it's for a different thing. It's an actual yogic practice that attunes your mind and your physical body. So the mind and the physical body are one unit. But because of where we are in our society and culture, we are very much living from the throat up. Just like the way somebody says they look at this chart and it's just confusing to them and they get overwhelmed and it doesn't make any sense. A lot of those people have the same feeling about their own body. There's so many body parts, they're doing so many things, and it just doesn't make sense. So therefore, I'm just going to take my body to somebody else to get it looked at and then tell me what's going on and what I need to do. So this, so the breathing that we're going to do in the chakra class is going to get you attuned to your source self. It's like basically connecting you with your higher self, with your physical body, with all parts of your consciousness. And this breathing, coherent breathing, is something that just balances you, and it's optimal for your nervous system to have this certain amount of oxygen. So when you inhaling to 6 and then exhaling to a count of 6, it like instantly calms you down. It's been working for me so much. Like that's my biggest takeaway from this 12-hour weekend retreat class that I went to. It's the biggest thing that's like changed my the things that were happening to me when I was trying to sleep with this thing I was having. So anyway, this one practice has been amazing, and I'll guide us through that in just a minute. Okay, so this synchronizes the brain, the heart, and the lungs. You're relaxed and you're alert. So rest and digest will be strengthened when you're in this coherent breathing. Basically, the coherence is between the mind, the heart, and the body. It's all I've been doing. Oh, good. Yes, dude, me too. Really, I've been in any moment that I remember it. I'm going to stop right here and just walk us through it. So basically what's happening in this coherent breathing is that we're inhaling to a count of 6. It's like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the exhale, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this app, it'll like ding, 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 ding. It'll do it to the count that you put it for. 6 is what I'm working with. So I actually hear that in my head when I'm inhaling to 6 and exhaling to 6. So strength. Okay, so this coherent breathing strengthens the rest and digest response. What did I write? Make a medicine blend. Brain, lungs, and nervous system. Oh, making a medicine blend of your brain, lungs, and your nervous system. Okay, so back in the day, This little piece of information is going to blow your mind, because it really blew. I was like, what the? Back in the day, grandpa sitting on the porch, and I didn't write down the time frame. I know it's before 1950 though. Before 1950s, like the early 1900s. The average resting breath rate for somebody just sitting down, minding their own business, relaxing on a Sunday afternoon was 4.9. So that means there was 4.9 breath cycles per minute. A breath cycle is the full inhale and the full exhale. However long it takes you to do that, that's one breath cycle. Back in the day, 1900s, grandpa on the patio was doing 4.9 breaths per minute. And then in the 1950s, around the 1950s, it went to 5.5. Not a huge jump, 5.5 breath cycles per minute. In 1950, we started, okay, well, I can't say it. My notes aren't that good. It says office lifestyle. So whenever we started doing more office work, our breath rate went to 6.9. Still not a huge jump. It's a big jump, but not huge. That means we were breathing 6.9. It was taking us, whatever, you get that. Inhale, exhale, that's one breath cycle. In a minute, it was taking us, we were having 6.9 of those breath cycles per minute. Now, in our current time, we are at 15 to 20 breaths per fucking minute. Like seriously, 15 to 20 breath cycles per minute. Basically, that means we're having a panic attack all day long. We're always breathing we are always breathing so fast that if you bring this average breath cycle back to the 1900s, grandpa would definitely have a heart attack, because it's just too, and let me tell you another thing, because I have been practicing body work since 2006, 2007, this section of our body, these collarbones, we've got through here scalenes, which are just, you could see them when I go like that. These are scalenes here. We have some in the front, we have these ones on the side, and we have some in the back. Also, there's this posterior, anyway, whatever. You don't need to know all the names of the muscles in the neck. But everywhere that is an accessory breathing muscle, people use their accessory breathing muscles. It's like from the collarbones up is where we're breathing. Watch. That's what we're working with right now. So not everybody, many people that I see, that I've been seeing for years on my massage table, having all this neck pain and migraines. Well, that's because all these neck muscles are so tired of doing your breathing work. These aren't breathing muscles. These are meant to hold the head to the body. Your breathing muscles are actually below your breasts. It's like below the rib cage is where your diaphragm is. Your rib cage is supposed to be expanding and contracting, but hardly anybody is breathing like that now, because that would make you have to take a deep breath. And why are we so afraid of taking a deep breath? What's in there that we're afraid to touch? Or why do we think that we don't deserve that full breath? So this rapid and shallow breathing tells our nervous system that we better get ready to run, or we better get ready to fight. So it's keeping us in that, and also, okay, well, you know what? Pain, yes, constant state of anxiety. Pain, a lot of pain in below the neck can be alleviated through bringing some fresh oxygen to it. But as you know, a lot of things hurt worse before they get better. Because imagine if you haven't had any expansion and also remember that these rib cage, it goes like this. It goes all the way around. So in the front, here's the front of your rib cage, and then all the way back here. Now here's the back of your rib cage. So imagine if you hadn't taken a deep breath in, who knows if you ever did, maybe since you were a baby. Now you take a deep breath. I'm going to contract these ribs because they're more like this, because they haven't been expanding and contracting. People, we're not really stretching them out. Even some yoga teachers who I've talked to said that they don't breathe unless they're teaching a yoga class or in a yoga class. So imagine your lungs, your rib cage has been like this, and then someone asks you to take a deep breath and all this like stuff comes out, literal stuff. Like there's physical metabolic debris between the ribs, which is information. Everything in the body is information. It's holding information for you. So you take a deep breath and you're like, who knows what's going to happen? It's a scary place. I haven't been here. And so maybe people just want to stay like this. But eventually through opening that up, and there's a lot of like self-massage where wow, my armpits are really sweaty. Self-massage where you can get in between those, the intercostals and help to relieve some of that stuff. Taking a run. So when you take a run, you're really forced to do that big, huge rib contraction and expansion. Those things are going to help to move whatever's in there out. And then consciously, so when you're not running, you don't need to keep breathing like you're running. When you're running, you need to breathe bigger, which is going to expand and contract the rib cage. When you're done with your run, you can sit down, regulate your breath, because the lungs are informing your nervous system about what's happening. It's not the nervous system informing the lungs. Your lungs are informing your nervous system. So because we're not taught in this culture, and I was never taught how to breathe. It's unconscious for the most part. Our breathing is mostly unconscious. So right now, let's just take a deep breath. I know I've been throwing so much information. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get through the whole thing I wanted to get through. Okay. Then the next thing that comes to my mind, and I just read a little bit of this. Are you exhaling through your mouth? Are you inhaling through your nose? Like, what are you doing? So in yoga, every teacher that I've had now let me just tell you, my yoga teachers have lived in the ashram, they're swamis since they were young boys, and they're old now. So they're, long time that's all they do is study the yoga text, practice what they're learning, and teach what they're learning. I'm not saying that means that they're absolutely correct 100% of the time, but when I came back to America after living in the ashram for 2 years and practicing and studying with these amazing teachers, I come back to Southern California, and the yoga studios are teaching these weird breathing patterns that I'm like, what the hell is this? And the thing that cued me off to the possibility that they could be incorrect was that there's a breathing pattern. It's called Kapalabhati breathing, which means shining skull. And I know that breath work, like I could teach that while I'm asleep. It's something that I taught yoga as a 2-hour class, 6 days a week for 2 years. And the other hours of the day I was learning, I was studying. So when I get to the US and they say something else, it's like Kapala, I don't know, they don't say it right basically. And then they teach it weird. It's like the breathing pattern is done all with the diaphragm. And maybe I'll teach that. I don't think so right now because I'm running out of time. Maybe I'll come back on the channel again and teach you guys these breathing patterns. So basically what happens is that your belly button pushes into the spine, but they're teaching it up here. which is basically just overemphasizing the problem that we have in this culture with breathing shallowly through our accessory breathing muscles. So, and also they were doing it like this. So when I got home, I called up and emailed some of my teachers and was like, hey, whoa, just doing it those 3 times got me so lightheaded. It's not good. And I asked them, hey, are we supposed to be exhaling through our mouth for Kapalabhati breathing in any circumstance? Every single teacher said, no, absolutely not. When you exhale through your mouth, you're losing prana. You're losing your life force energy. So are you breathing in through your nose or through your mouth? There's a lot of people who have a lot of different ideas on it. For me personally, when I'm doing my breath work practice, I keep it through my nose. But I do find this great sense of relief living in a messed up society, messed up meaning that we have weird lights. We're inside these weird structures made of who knows what's in these walls. And we eat food from a grocery store. Like, it's weird in the sense of human history. It's weird to not be outside eating food that you grew or that grew nearby, not knowing what the hell, we call it weeds, but they're medicine. And it's so weird so when I say living in a messed up society, I'm talking about that. And then so this, sometimes when I go like this, whew, it's a very liver healing response. The liver is working to break down all the toxic things we are consuming every single day through fake lights and weird smells in our fabrics. And what the hell is our fabrics are made out of, like plastic and polyester and all this weird stuff. So living in a petri dish. Yes. Oh, emotional pain. Living, yes. Oh, sorry, I missed some of that stuff. So yes, emotional pain. We got to talk, Mystic. We need to get on here and do where we were breaking down that discussion about energy getting stuck in the body. Like, I feel like that conversation we should talk about that together, maybe on a Instagram live or something like that. That's going to be in the chakra class that we're coming up with. We're going to dive into the actual chakra system, the places, the energy systems within our body, and how energy is flowing and moving within our body. And does energy actually get stuck? We're going to dive into that in this chakra course. And I'm going to bring in some of the ancient Kashmirian, the original chakra, which is pronounced chakra. It's pronounced chakra. That it's not chakra. So whenever we say chakra, basically that is the colonized version of the chakra system. And that's fine, because there is some cool stuff about that chakra system. It's just not really what it is. Like, over here is when it was created and what it actually, the names in Sanskrit, what they mean. It talks about their location in the body. And then this other system that we have, which was adulterated and manipulated. It is a misappropriation of information. The misappropriation means that it's like, sounds cool and it's pretty, and then everything in it is not like they got it from somewhere and then made up a whole nother thing and sold it to the world. So it's been misused. Let me see, what the hell. Yeah, so I was talking about the breathing pattern and using our mouth. So the sigh, when you, it does come out through the mouth. And there's actually a healing thing that happens for our liver when we sigh out through the mouth. Are we losing prana? Yes. But it's like energy that we need to dispel. It needs to be exhaled out sometimes through the mouth. You figure that out for your own self. In the yoga text, there's a breathing exercise that we do with the mouth open. Looks like this. You blow out through your tongue that's curled, and this is to, yes, let go of something. It's because when you're too hot in India, when you get too hot, This is a cooling breath. It cools you off. So it's also working on the liver. It's your breathing, your bowels, your sweat. These are ways that we're able to release things naturally. So if you're not doing this cooling breath on purpose and you are losing prana, but sometimes, listen to your body before you listen to anybody else. Your body knows what it's doing, and there's this weird thing. It's like we have this instinctual way, just like my dog, when I serve him like my leftovers, I like I know it's wrong, you guys, I know, but I do it sometimes. Let him lick my plate or whatever. And she doesn't eat out certain things is because she knows instinctually that's not good for her. And I trust her, and she trusts herself, and it's so we have the same thing. Our body knows what to do, and there's two things, because sometimes our body knowing what to do is a habit, and it's a pattern, and it is a holding cycle that is keeping us in a pattern that maybe isn't the best for us. And that's where going to somebody, we can start to shift those patterns without invalidating our body, because our body does what it does as an adaptation to what we are living in. Our body adapts to our circumstances. Form follows function. So until we inform body otherwise, form is following the function. Where do you live? What are the environmental toxins that you're facing, that your body is facing on a day-to-day basis? In general, doing breathing exercises are going to cleanse your body of toxins. It's going to really heal your nervous system, which is really what we need during Gemini Mercury retrograde cycle. And this other thing about the information that we're holding in our body, which is basically informing every aspect of our life. It's like what we are holding in our body. This is the stories that have become what we are adapting ourselves to become. It's like a mirror reflection to what this is. Feng shui, basically. It's feng shui, where inside of ourselves, all of our organs are set in a different way. They're used to receiving certain nutrients. They're used to thinking certain thoughts, having certain hormones flooding them. And then whatever that is how your outside world looks. So sometimes, the whole art of feng shui is that we go and we change what we're looking at. And through changing what we're looking at, we can access our insides and change what we're working with on the inside as well. So during this Mercury retrograde cycle, finding your true voice. Okay, so during this retrograde cycle, we're able to, that psychopomp, Mercury as the psychopomp is going deep, deep down into our underbelly, into our underworld, and pulling up stuff and being like, oh, what about this? Hey, remember this? Hey, what about this? It's pulling stuff up. I don't know how, it's so weird how the onset of Mercury retrograde, and then all of a sudden there's like things from the past that come back. And that's across the board for all of us. Mercury psychopomp, bringing stuff up from the past. And it could be from this direction. It could also be bringing up things from our memory, from our mind. Because Mercury psychopomp goes above and below and brings things to cognition, brings things to a place we can have an awareness of them. What do you decide to do with that information that comes up? Do you give it an excuse? What defines an excuse for you? So something that's coming up for me right now is like, when you were a little kid, you only had a certain thing. You couldn't just leave. You couldn't just be like, oh, my dad's being a dick, I'm going to leave. You couldn't do that. You had to find a way to adapt to the situations that you were in. Whatever you did to adapt back then, it's not how you need to adapt now. I can say with 99.9% crystal clarity that your ways of adapting to your childhood circumstances are done. They're obsolete. Now we have this whole realm of possibilities to how we can adapt to our circumstances now. So this is where we're in the unknown. It's like, well, shit, how do I do it? I don't even know because I've been doing it this way. So during this Mercury retrograde cycle, these things are going to be coming up, resurfacing, bubbling up to the surface from any past timeline. It might not be childhood. It may be from last month, or it could be from anywhere. It could be from a past life, from a memory of when you were Nefertiti and you were actually the king as Nefertiti. So as these things come up, we're going to touch them, hold them, and make a decision about whether or not the ways that we've adapted our thinking and our thought processes are, see what I'm doing, what I'm seeing over here is like this middle place where it comes to awareness. And then over here, I'm like, no, it's not. So find a new way. This might be a time to learn a new skill, to learn a new, my friend who is in prison right now asked me to send him, there's this thing in India where people can remember everything. And I'm not kidding, just a small example. When you go to a restaurant, 15 people in your party, the server comes up and doesn't hold a pen and paper. They take your order with their mind. Okay, okay, yes. And then they go and they tell the cooks cook it, and the cooks are the one who write up your ticket. It's like the cooks cook it, not the cooks don't write your ticket, but from when the plate was made, there's another person who writes down your ticket so they can bill you. But then the server comes back out and serves everybody their plate perfect. So in their culture and in the teachings that are given from an early age, there's these memorization tools. And do you know why? It's because the subconscious never forgets. They have a key to access granted. Yes, so there's in these yoga teachings, in their ancient teachings, there's this thing called a sutra. A sutra is a thread. When you have that thread, you're able to unlock the whole text. So one of my favorite books is called the Recognition Sutra. There's 22 sutras. This book is huge because between those 22, the first sutra is they use the analogy of a house. The first sutra, you're going into the living room. What all do you see in the living room? And so each one of these things, it's like a whole story, but it's just the living room of the house. That's just one sutra. Then when you go to Sutra 2, you walk into the kitchen. And now this is Sutra 2. So there's all these things in the kitchen. So this is a way of memorizing vast amounts of information by using a technique. So maybe it's time to learn something, not necessarily that, but some other way of utilizing your mind so that, and this next, damn it, I think I'm going to have to come on again. I'm already at 58 minutes and I have a goal to keep it to an hour. The next thing I wanted to bring in about this Mercury retrograde is that we have Venus and Neptune as main influencers on this cycle. So the overall feeling to me is that I hate the words like mind and heart, because you are not separate. Your mind and heart are actually, it's one thing, but there's different functions, okay? Different functions. Wow. And then we take it from the mind to the heart to our gut to the regeneration organs. Like there's all these fine, amazing systems in our body. But for this Gemini retrograde cycle, there's an emphasis on our relations, how I relate with you, how you relate with those in your family, your relatables, who it is you're relating with and how you do that. Your value systems, which also your value systems are part of how you relate with other people. We usually relate with people who have a similar value system. So this thing that's been coming up a lot for me lately is like, I love people. Some people who I love and respect a lot are doing things and spreading information that is very different than my value system. And I'm like, wow, I think we're just us on here, so I'm going to just give this example. I have a teacher named Stephen Forrest. Everybody who does evolutionary astrology has at some point taken a class or a huge course with Stephen Forrest. He's an amazing teacher. He's really old and wise, and he's cool. He was doing a class and talking about why we need to get our vaccinations. And I was like, oh, wow, did you just say that? And are you still talking about that? And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm noticing where when I love and yeah, dude, yes, not only him, there's been other people who I respect and who I admire what they have to say and their way of thinking. And the only way I know that I admire and respect them is because of their way of thinking, because of philosophy and transmission of information, the whole Gemini Sagittarius axis. That's how I met most people, is because I'm attracted to their mind. I have Venus in Aquarius. I am attracted to minds. And then, okay, so now I'm like, so what does that say about me if I'm judging you based off of what you believe? And so I'm having a hard time with myself where I'm like, it shocks me, if you understand spirituality, you can still promote this. It's really odd. It's not even just spirituality. It's like, it is spirituality, but it's also like, yeah. And then I'm like, well, where do I get my way of thinking? And why do I think my way of thinking is the best? Why do I think that my way of thinking is right? We all have that. So this teacher that I'm talking about also has his own way of thinking, and he is right. And whenever I'm able to investigate and ask more into like, okay, so what led you to having this belief? What led you to making this choice? That helps me be able to like still value the person, still love the person, and still hold them in that beautiful place of my, you know, I love being in connection with things that feel good to me. And I don't want to move a person out of that, my heart field. That, you know, if you know about heart math, it's like we do have this heart connection. And especially to those people that are in our orb, within our 10-degree radius, that I don't want to move people out because they have a different value system than me. It's up to them if they want to move me out because of my different value system, but I do want to instigate and propagate loving through our differences and through our different value systems. So I'm coming up into a challenge with that. Like I was listening to a lady today talking about Mercury retrograde, and then she's like with her little Band-Aid and talking about why this was important. And I was like, oh my God. So I was struggling, like trying to stay open to her teaching when I was feeling myself shutting down, like, are you serious? But then, so I'm like, okay, I'm emitting energy. I'm not absorbing. So I'm emitting my beautiful heart, love, and acceptance. And I want to remain open in that way. That's my choice. I want to remain open. So that's part of the Venus interaction with Mercury during this cycle. We're going to be up against finding how to either stay in relationship with people, teachers, things that maybe aren't in our value system, or getting out of relationship with things that are not in our value system. That is an option too. So Because when you get out of relationship with things that aren't similar to your value system, quite possibly now you're going to be keep emitting energy that is your own value system. Maybe this is the radar that invites, I'm struggling with this too. I think I will exit those relationships. They don't feel good. Okay, so the more you radiate what's true to you in your heart, this is like a boop, 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 like your frequency is getting bigger. And now you're able to attract more of the people who are in alignment with your value system, quite possibly. So there's no answer right now. You may know your answer. You're like, well, fuck that. I'm getting out of those things. But say like my teacher, I love him. And I have like all his books. I take his classes. I really love his teachings just because he was born in a time, who knows? I'm not going to make an excuse for him, like why he decided that this was the best choice and that those of us who aren't choosing this choice are being, what was the word he used? That we don't have a right. That's what he said. He said, just because blah, 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 you don't have a right to walk around infecting other people. Just because you believe that your immune system will keep you safe, you don't have a right to walk around infecting other people. I was like, are you a martyr? Like, do you feel like anyway, I'm not going to get into that. I wouldn't even be able to learn from him. Mystic. This is the thing. She said, wow, I wouldn't be able to learn from him. So when I was in India, I had this teacher. His name was Prahlad. He was an amazing teacher. He was really psychic. And so he would walk by and tell you something with maybe I'm the one that was psychic and I was able to understand what he was saying with just when he would look at me, I would get the information and then, wow, that was weird. So anyway, he is an amazing teacher, but he was doing things that were against the teachings. And so one day I went up to him and was like, hey, so I have this teacher. I wasn't brave enough to bring it to him in the sense of like, hey, I was like, hey, I have this teacher who is amazing, who's like delivering these amazing old tantric teachings. I'm learning so much about the etheric body and the subtle layers of our body and the chakra system and all this great stuff. But we have rules in the ashram. There's certain rules. You don't eat chili, you don't eat tamarind, you don't have caffeine, you don't have sex. It's like we're disciplining ourselves to a certain vibration that we are able to, it's called being sattvic. So tamasic is whenever you're lethargic, lazy, slow, just want to lay down and whatever, eat candy. And then rajasic is where you're like, go, go, go. The US people, go, 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 do this, do that. And you got to take the caffeine and take the garlic and you go have sex and blah. So in the ashram, we're getting to the middle place. The sattvic is satyam. It has to do with our truth. And so that we're able to like be at an equilibrium to be most receptive to receiving spiritual teachings. And so I was like, so, this teacher that I have is doing all these things that are against the discipline of our yoga school. And so how do I continue being his student when I am constantly battling the fact that I feel that this person is a hypocrite? You're not practicing what you preach. You're not practicing what you teach. And it's hard for me to take the teachings because my mind is like, oh, I can't, blah. And this is what he told me. And I know he had to have known I was talking about him. He had to have, because we were able to go on an outing every Friday with the staff. It means the people who are there teaching as staff. And he would always bring like a hot girl student to go on these outings with us. He would always have some hot girl with him and be flirting and then like get coffee and like do all the things that we weren't supposed to do. But for me, I'm like, I'm not doing that because I'm committed to this practice that I moved to India to learn. Like, I'm not going against myself. I made a commitment to this discipline. I am not going against myself. but he would do it and it would make me so mad. And so, yeah, anyway, his answer was take the teachings, not the teacher, because everybody is here with their own karmic patterns, their own demons they're battling, their own stuff that is human. It's very human. And a teacher isn't a perfect person. A teacher is somebody who's able to transmit a teaching to you that you then take and move it through your body and move it through your life. So that it's always a thing for me. So I had also a shamanic practitioner, the teacher I was studying shamanism with, like drank soda and ate pizza from Costco and went to Costco and like bought things excessively and like, but she was an amazing shamanic practitioner and her teachings really changed my life. But in the moment sitting there across from her and she's kind of like a lump in her chair, just like I'm like, stack your spine up. Like, how are you receiving energy when you're just all like lumped up? But that was my own judgment and my things that I'm working with. So I had to like put my ego identity in a little chair and be like, listen, honey, we're learning something now. I know that this goes against your value system, but like, let's go ahead and get these teachings first and foremost. And then, do what you want, but like get the teachings. So for me right now with the whole thing with the Venus and Mercury, looking at, because Mercury is the mind. Let's gather information and share information. First and foremost, it's about this and then this. So what do you consider useful information? What do you want to learn about? And then how do you integrate? So when you've consumed information, it does stuff in your body, and then you turn around and you become that teaching. Once you've inhaled a teaching, you've taken that in, you've eaten it in a way, you've consumed that teaching. It does things in your body. It awakens things. It remembers it, stuff happens. And then you're a vessel for being able to transmit information in a new way. So through this process, we have Venus there. That's like informing our value system. So let's see. This happens a lot. They turn out to be drunks in secret. Even that main yogi got in trouble last year. Yep. Let's not even get started on that. Teachers are human, yet we can't forget we all have shortcomings, but never put anybody on a pedestal, for sure. Take the teachings, not the teacher. So now let's take this to our relationships, interpersonal, which is the place Venus really is about. Venus is really about our interpersonal relationships. It's that close inner circle. Your family, your friends, the family you've chosen, the friends you've chosen to be your family. And I think that's where we're talking about really. Like, that's what this Mercury is really going to be bringing up. The value systems of that close-knit inner circle that you have every day. They're influencing you. You're hearing what they're talking about. That is a constant vibration that is on your heart. It's a vibrational frequency that is really prevalent in your space. My teacher, I don't even know, he lives, who knows where we're not that close. He doesn't even probably know my name, to be honest. So that, well, he does know my name. He probably doesn't remember it. Let's just say that. It's going to be more about the day-to-day close personal relationships that we have, that they're coming into question. And do they resonate with something that is from your past, from your body's memory? Do they bring you to a new place? Do they take you down to an old place? How does that relationship influence your mind and where you think you're going in your mind? And then we also have Neptune. Neptune and Mercury were at a hard 90-degree angle at the onset of the retrograde cycle. They're still at a 90-degree angle. When the retrograde is over, they're going to be again at that 90-degree angle. And it was pretty perfect. It's like 24, 23. Neptune, I believe, was at 20. Well, they were both at 24 at some point. Perfect 90-degree angle. So 90-degree angles are challenging. Wow, this video is just fucking going on and on. Okay. Last thing, I'll come back on here tomorrow with some breathing exercises, okay? I love teaching the breathing exercises, so I promise you I will be back tomorrow. Maybe later on tonight, we'll see. So Neptune at a 90-degree angle with Mercury is going to be giving us a challenge between the imagination, the imaginal realms. Neptune, you always are going to be faced with what's real, what's true. And this phrase is like, is it a dream? What makes a dream more or less real than shared day-to-day reality? This is something that we're going to be working with during Neptune cycle. So just because it's your dream and your vision of reality, how does that translate to those around you? And because somebody else's dream or their version of reality doesn't make it true to you. So this 90-degree angle, it's like a clash. 90-degree is when you're squaring up. You're squaring up like, how do you say when you're squaring up with somebody, you're like checking them out and you're looking, it's a conflict. It's a conflicting alignment. So I feel like the whole thing, we have this eclipse on just a few days from now. Mercury is right there on the eclipse, and I feel like that 90-degree angle with Neptune is asking us to include more of the dream, more of the imaginal realm, asking us to include that as a valid form of communication. So if you are, how can you do it more? If you do include dreams, visions, your visionary way of knowing things, of speaking, if you are including that, how can you do it more in a way that is more shareable, more relatable? If you're not much including your imaginal spaces, your imagination, your body's wisdom, if you're not including that in your day-to-day reality, how can you do it more? So tomorrow, I'm going to get on a video back on here on our beautiful channel group that we have and do a breathing exercise. I'm going to teach you 2 breathing exercises from yoga philosophy. The Kapalabhati breathing, which is very, very purifying. It's energizing. And then I'm going to teach you Anuloma Viloma, which is a way of balancing both right and left hemispheres of the brain. This is the one that I feel like is going to be most necessary for this Mercury retrograde cycle, because when you do this practice, you'll literally have memories of your dreams. And I mean, if you do it first thing in the morning, especially, you get flooded back with your dreams because it's integrating the part of your brain that is irrational, which is where the dreams are really popping off and your creativity is in there. So this retrograde cycle, finding your true voice, it's going to be using both sides of the brain and completely validating both sides of your brain, completely validating all the ways of knowing things and expressing those things. So let's go ahead and stop there. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this extra long video. I'll come back on. I'll give you all the link. I'll make the link now so I don't have to worry about that tomorrow. Have it set up. And then I'll guide you through Kapalabhati breathing, Anuloma Viloma, which is alternate nostril breathing. And we'll just investigate a little bit more ways that we can integrate other forms of knowing, other ways of communicating, and then tapping into the body to know, because Venus in the senses, tapping into those other ways of knowing that can be helpful in expressing your creativity. This is going to be this little chunk of time, especially between now and the new moon. Things are being revealed from our physical body. And what's being revealed is either for the compost or to be taken into this next cycle. Like new moon being an ultra efficient time of newness as we go into summer solstice this year. So thank you so much. Thank you. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow.